Well, let's go live now and get the views of conservationist Desmond Majekodunmi, who joins me to discuss the impact of this California fires and the late October rain. Thank you very much, Mr. Majekodunmi, for joining in on the program at this time. What do you make of this disaster in California?
Well, it's the alarm bell beginning to ring even louder. We've been alerted for several years, but particularly this year, by none other than the Secretary General of the United Nations himself. He said we are facing an existential threat. Climate change is real and it's beginning to get out of hand. And these two examples that are citing, these awful fires in California and the flooding that we're getting in places like Nigeria, particularly Lagos and some of the states, are classic symptoms of climate change. The scientists who assessed this, they told us, over 30 years ago, that if we continued heating up the atmosphere with fossil fuels and other kind of greenhouse gases, this is what would happen, and it's beginning to happen. So we really, really should listen to the alarms and do what is necessary, because guess what? This is just the beginning. If we allow it to continue like this, it could get a whole lot worse very, very quickly. Why do you think the United Nations declared a state of emergency on the climate? They don't even call it climate change anymore. They call it the climate crisis, the climate emergency. It's an emergency. We've got to do something quickly.
Well, the task at hand now for the U.S. and the Nigerian example, or we could stick to the U.S. example, is subduing the wildfires. How are they faring? Seeing as, in your words, perhaps the damage has been done already. So how do you control it?
Yeah, well, it's nature eventually will control it. Eventually the rains will come, tremendous damage is done. These sort of things, they overwhelm the capacity of human beings. We don't have the resources to control this sort of thing. And you know what? Prevention is better than cure. The people who are telling us that we're having a climate emergency, that it's a climate crisis, that it's an existential threat, these are highly informed people, some of the most intelligent people in the world that have tremendous amounts of resources from scientific bases all over the world. And they're telling us that we must prevent this global warming. And in order to prevent the global warming, we got to stop the pollution, just stop burning toxic fuels, transit emergency measures to renewables, and also a very, very good solution, natural solution, plant hundreds and hundreds and millions, if not billions of trees very, very quickly, and we can still avert terrible disasters. Our hearts go out to the people that are experiencing this, but it's an alarm bell. And hey, guess what? If your alarm bell rings, you shouldn't ignore it, because there's a reason why nature is blowing these alarm bells. It could get a lot worse. And oh boy, it could hit places like Nigeria very, very badly as well. In the northern regions, the desert is encroaching tremendously fast for the same reason. Too much aridity, too much heat in the atmosphere. We got to bring it back down to the way God himself made it. We can't continue to mess with God's mechanisms, our ecosystems, our life support ecosystems. And guess what? It's not just our ecosystems, it's our children's life support
Absolutely.
ecosystems.
And, well, the global climate protests now are also resonating around this position that you have just, made so clear. Lack of preparedness across the world. Governments need to wake up. But what about the people? Looking at your space now, Nigeria, for example, what about the people? What are these things that the people need to do to play their own part?
Excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that. Well, every action, it starts with the mind. It starts with thinking. And what we need to do as people, as individuals, we need to have a transformation, a renewal of our minds into the likeness of our Creator. After all, He created us in His image and likeness, and He said that His creation is good. In fact, at the end of creation, He said it is very, very good. All the scriptures tell us this very, very clearly. So we need to start caring more for our Creator. And that's what gives me hope, because we as Nigerians, we do recognize we have a God, and we do express a lot of love for this God. Now we got to translate that expression of love for our God into caring for his creation, which is our life support. Okay? Get that mindset. So stop your pollution. Stop all this plastic pollution. Rapid transition to clean energy. Insist that government gives us electricity so we're not burning generator all over the place. And also plant trees. Green, green, green. That's the solution. Green. If we really restore our forests and plant the trees and stop the pollution, we can avert a terrible disaster. If we don't do this, our children will never, ever forgive us.
Desmond Majekodunmi, thank you so much for your contributions on the news.